Welcome. My name is Claire Culwell, and I am so excited that you are joining me today for my podcast called To Be Bold. When I thought about having a podcast, I thought about the ways that I had to step out of my comfort zone for things that matter throughout my life. My birth mother motivated me to step out of my comfort zone when she shared with me that I had survived her abortion that successfully took the life of my twin. And I knew that day that I never wanted to see the tears that I saw in her eyes, in the eyes of anyone else. And so I chose to boldly step out of my comfort zone for something that mattered to me. And so I want to be able to share stories with you, stories of people, ordinary people just like me, people just like you, who are really doing that, who are stepping out of their comfort zone for things that matter, who are being bold in their stance for things that are good, who are speaking truth in love. And I want that to be an encouragement to you today. I hope that it will motivate you as you live life in your family, in your community. And I hope that it will motivate you to be bold enough to stand up, to step out of your comfort zone for things that truly matter today. I hope you enjoy. Welcome to Called to Be Bold. I am Claire Culwell. I am excited that you're joining me today. I'm excited about our guest, Mike Seibel. He is a pro-life attorney. He has been doing incredible things in New Mexico, representing life. He's the founder of Abortion on Trial. They call themselves the Mythbusters, talking about what really is happening inside the abortion industry, and in regards to what abortion actually is, what it does, complications arising from that, so many things. I'm excited to dig into with all of you. I think that most of us will not have heard about things that he is going to talk about, things that he is exposing inside of the abortion industry. So welcome, Mike, to Called to Be Bold. I'm glad that you're here with us today.
Glad to be here. It's going to be an exciting journey for us both today.
Absolutely. Well, let's start off. I would love to just hear your journey to becoming an attorney, that represents cases have to do with an abortion, that have to do with exposing the abortion industry. What was that like for you? What got you to this point of taking pro-life cases and considering yourself a pro-life attorney that even does pro bono work for pro-life cases?
Well, a little bit of background about me. I was a plaintiff's attorney here in Albuquerque, New Mexico. We've done some national cases. I was involved in the Ford Firestone cases. I've been involved in heavy mortgage litigation cases, the hip implant cases on a national level. And in about 2014, I got divorced. And after I got divorced, I decided I'm going to sit down and pray and say, what does God want me to do? And I prayed for about a year, and every day I would go in and I would talk to the pastor over there, and he would say, God's got a plan for you. And I was finally getting really frustrated, and I said, okay, what's this plan? And we went out to dinner, and that night, it's June 23rd. It's a special date in my life, June 23rd, in the pro-life journey. A prominent pro-lifer here got into an accident. And we both went to the same church, did not know each other. And the priest said, I need to refer her over to you. So a couple of days later, she came in and she said, I don't want to talk about my accident. Did you know that UNM is selling body parts? And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I mean, I couldn't even believe it. This was before David Daleiden, about 3 weeks before David Daleiden broke the videos. And I just couldn't believe it. I said, no, they're not selling body parts. she said, well, look right here. She handed me a little sheet that kind of indicated that there was body part sales. And I said, I'll think about it. So I prayed about it for about a month or so. David Delyden's videos got released. And then on Labor Day, she gave me a couple articles to read. It was about the infamous Curtis Boyd, who's the late-term abortionist here in Albuquerque, New Mexico, the most notorious late-term abortionist in North America. And I read an article from Lila Rose of Live Action about how they were telling women not to go to the emergency room. I read another article, I don't know who it was by, about women going into hotel rooms and having abortions, late-term abortions in hotel rooms. And then I read an article by Karen Garnett out of Dallas where Curtis Boyd admitted that he was killing babies. And he said, yes, I'm praying for him as I'm sending their spirits back to God. And I prayed all day that day. And I thought to myself, I can't let this happen. I don't know. It's something innate within inside you as a man. You cannot let this happen to women and children here. The women were being treated like dogs, and the word of God was being perverted at that time to justify abortion. And I said, somebody's got to do something. And I just decided, okay, God, who's going to do something? And he said, hey, stupid, it's you. You need to do something about this. You have the capability of doing it. So I agreed to look into the body part scandal. Within 2 months, we shut program called the Ryan Residency that the University of New Mexico was promoting at the Late Term Abortion Center. And shortly thereafter, the Select Panel of Infant Lives called us because we had discovered, yes, UNM was selling body parts. We have all the documents. We continue to post them on the web. And, we've pursued this and gotten 2 criminal referrals from the Select Panel of Infant Lives, stopped fetal tissue body part sales. It was a 19 university network of body part sales, and we stopped it all.
Wow. That is absolutely incredible. I know that when I met my birth mother and found out that I had survived her abortion, found out what was happening in regards to abortion in our country, I could have never imagined that I would find out that things like the abortion industry selling baby parts is something that is happening in our country, and most people don't know about it because the media isn't telling us about it. So many things are being censored. I'm sure that you have experienced that, as I have as well. In regards to the media, big tech, all of these groups that are censoring the truth getting out. So I appreciate all that you're doing to not only expose what's happening, but to go after the people and the organizations, the abortion industry, as they're allowing this injustice to happen. Tell us about some of the myths about the abortion industry that you have exposed, broken through, things that, I feel like our listeners today are going to be really shocked, as if the baby body parts isn't shocking enough, something that all of us need to wake up to as we sit in our little bubble. The church isn't talking about this. They're not telling our kids what's really going on when they provide sex ed programs in our schools. Abortion is being shoved down people's throats as a safe and rare thing that is happening in our country, but we know that that's not true. So what are some of the myths that you have exposed?
Well, one of the big myths that we see every day is we hear that late-term abortion only doesn't exist. It's only 1.2% of the overall abortion numbers in the United States, and when it is, it's for extremely rare conditions that are due to the health of the mother. Well, let's take this down. We have an outpatient clinic here in Albuquerque. Curtis Boyd has killed 100,000 people more than any other abortionist in this country, and he has an outpatient clinic. Let's take myth number 1. If late-term abortion is really about the health of the mother, why are we doing it in a late-term abortion center or an outpatient clinic rather than a hospital or something else? They're discharging these women each and every day after they induce labor. So it's really not safe. It's actually less safe than the hospital in this situation, and it's taking place at the clip of 20 a week. This is all on abortion on trial. And they say, well, okay, so late-term abortion exists, but we don't do it that late. Well, we have a videotape of Curtis Boyd in his deposition testimony posted on Abortion on Trial that says there is no set time limit on abortion. He said you can do it up to the date of birth. We have the leading late-term abortionist in the country saying we can do this up to date of birth under oath on deposition. Live Action called this two of the most 5 shocking admissions under oath by an abortionist. I think that's significant. Other issues are abortion is safe. Well, we pulled the documents from Curtis Boyd's clinic, which says after 16 weeks, it's safer to carry your baby to term. So I think that is an admission of the abortion industry itself, saying after 6 weeks, it's better to have your baby. It's safer for the woman to have your baby. We've got stuff about, the emergency rooms. The late-term abortionist Carmen Landau has said, don't go to the emergency room if you have any complications. You should see the insides of the clinic. It's all on Abortion on Trial. Everything is just absolutely just gory and unbelievable to some extent.
So people can see this if they go to your website, abortionontrial.com?
.org.
.org.
Or on
Okay.
Facebook. Facebook is probably the most interactive of the sites that we have, because it has all the videos easy to access in the situation. So you can go on Facebook and see Curtis Boyd testify to giving bonuses for later term abortions. You can see him testify that this is going up to the date of birth. You can see Carmen Landau try to falsely claim that her clinic is safer than an emergency room. You can see the number of women. We actually have the number of women that have been sent to the emergency room from their clinic up on these websites. It has the patient logs of the daily patient logs of the dates and the times and the gestational ages of women that are on there. Everything is inclusive. We release more and more every day. We bust another myth each and every day that we do it. And this is all coming from a variety of cases. So we have 5 open cases right now against the abortion industry. 4 are against Curtis Boyd. 3 of them are publicly known. There will be another release of another one here shortly, which is another horrible subject. It comes from Jessica Duran's case against Curtis Boyd for the baby body parts. She was a woman who came forward and decided to go forward with suing on behalf that they've taken her body parts. Nicole Atkins, which is another woman who had a hysterectomy after her abortion, but they took the baby's brain. And then Keisha Atkins, which is the wrongful death of Keisha Atkins, who was a 24-week pregnant lady, 23 years old, perfectly healthy, elective late-term abortion who died of sepsis. So all these documents are coming from the actual case themselves. They're actual testimonies from abortion doctors and workers right online for you all to see up close and personal.
What is the most shocking case that you have taken? I mean, is there a case where and I'm sure when you read any of them, it's heartbreaking, it's shocking, but is there one that kind of just like took your breath away? I mean, it's unfathomable that it is happening right now in our country.
With Curtis Boyd, nothing is. They all kind of intermix. I can't really explain it, but there's shocking moments in every one of them. One of them is that of the baby body parts cases. Mm-hmm. They custom ordered a 7-month-old baby to dissect in front of high school students. Mm. That was the most shocking thing. If you look online, we posted the procurement logs, and mm-hmm. Live Action actually did a good video of a snippet of the logs, but the logs have 500 different babies in these logs.
Mm.
When I got those logs, I've seen just about everything, but those logs made me sob for about an hour.
Yeah.
I read through everything. They're looking for skin, eyes, lungs, hearts, brains, everything else. I mean, it's just, the evil is so intense. I've never seen an evil that big. Shocking. It's shocking that they treated a woman who's dying of sepsis of Benadryl. It's shocking that Shelley Sella is doing abortions in hotel rooms on 12-year-old rape victims. I mean, it's like a crime drama on Abortion on Trial. Every day is a new and an interesting thing that goes on there. And we have more shocking cases coming with regard to the abortion pill, to women getting arrested, which we just released yesterday after botched abortions. We've got a variety of stuff. We're trying to help women all over the country, trying to get them into our office because they are the victims of this horrible industry.
Yeah. We know abortion isn't safe. We know it isn't rare. I found this out personally when I found out I survived an abortion. I mean, I survived a botched abortion. And clearly, if the procedure had been safe, if it had done its job, I wouldn't be here. And so it's shocking. I mean, you could see my face as you were sharing that, especially about the high school students and dissecting the baby. I mean, just imagining that could have been my twin. I mean, we don't know what happened to my twin's body or his or her body parts. And so this is something that people need to wake up to. People need to realize that this is the norm. This is absolutely acceptable to the abortion industry. In fact, they push against laws that require parental consent, that require, just basic things like doing abortions, a doctor having privileges at a hospital. I mean, just basic things that every other medical procedure requires. And yet the abortion industry pushes back on that because the less we know, the more abortions they can sell. And so thank you for all that you're doing. Are there any other cases that are myths that you wanted to talk about before we jump into what you're currently working on, including the case that you released yesterday? Anything
There
else?
are a lot of myths that are out there, and they're a lot hard to explain. But Abortion on Trial does a good job of doing it. A couple of the myths that I wanted to tell people is abortion. A lot of people think it's not taxpayer funded. Well, we're in New Mexico. It's taxpayer funded up to the date of birth for any reason at any time. If Claire Culwell were to come into my jurisdiction pregnant at 7 months from Texas, she could immediately get Medicaid out here in New Mexico. She could immediately go to the late-term abortion center and get the abortion. Well, it would take 3 days. It would take a 3-day time period in this situation to have this late-term abortion. So Medicaid funding is completely paid for by the state. A lot of times they work around getting around the Hyde Amendment in this situation by unbundling the services and then submitting them, like, say, we did an ultrasound and an abortion. We'll submit the ultrasound to Medicaid, but the abortion won't go through the federal Medicaid. It'll go through the state one. So it is completely taxpayer funded here in New Mexico. Another myth that you might think about is you have to deliver anyway for a late-term abortion. I don't know if you know the procedure, but on the first day of a late-term abortion, they inject the baby with digoxin. On the they send the woman home with a dead baby in her. I think this falls well below the standard of care here in New Mexico. She comes back every day to get checked and have laminaria replaced. And it takes about 3 days to expel the baby, the dead baby that's inside of her. And they go through labor and delivery. Well, the question is if you're going to go through labor and delivery anyway, why not just have the baby? I mean, these are the types of myths that we see all the time. People think it's, well, we dismember it and it's all taken apart. No, they just kill the baby on the late term and they deliver the baby intact. What's the difference between going there and having the baby or killing your baby at that particular time? You're still going to go through the same pain and more risk. Trying to think of some of the other abortion. I mean, we have a big post about every time we bust another myth on abortion on trial. And it's just up there every day because it's coming through each and every case that we work through. And, I think the other thing is it safe? Well, Keisha Atkins, one of my clients who's passed away, was 23 years old when she went into to have her abortion. She was deemed medically necessary. It was deemed a medically necessary abortion. We have a great video on Shannon Carr trying to say that it was medically necessary. Mm-hmm. And my co-counsel did an incredible job of taking her apart piece by piece, saying it's not medically necessary, it's not emotionally necessary, it's not physically necessary, and it's not family or safety reasons necessary, and just destroyed her testimony. The reason they're doing that, to deem them medically necessary, is to get Medicaid funding. Mm-hmm. And watching her on that entire thing is just absolutely revealing as to the abortion industry not being able to back up the claims that they make.
Yeah, which goes across the board. I've heard doctors even say that abortion is never medically necessary because, as you mentioned, you can have the baby, you can deliver the baby, and you don't have to have an abortion to save the life of the mother. If the baby just needs to come out, be delivered, you don't need abortion to safely deliver a baby. And so, gosh, so let's talk about your case that came out yesterday. Tell us a little bit about that. Tell us about anything that you're currently working on in New Mexico. Does your reach spread further than New Mexico, or are you kind of focusing on the late-term abortion capital of North America, which is New Mexico?
So as I've gotten further and further into this, our reach is expanding. Like, we can go into Texas at any time, any place in Texas we can work. My co-counsel is licensed in Texas. I'm licensed here, but we've actually expanded nationwide. And we've been working with post-abortive ministries to bring in women who have interesting stories across. We have been referred one. I can't go into too much detail in New York, where it has to deal with the abortion pill, and it's just absolutely the worst evil I've ever seen. Mm-hmm. Yesterday, we released another one of it's not a late-term abortionist, but it's Franz Thiar down in Las Cruces. And if you're a pro-lifer and you follow the southern part of the country here, Mark Cavalier and I over at Southwest Coalition for Life work together nonstop.
Wonderful.
On September 1st, he referred a lady to my office, which he videotaped. She had gone in for a medical abortion. I don't know the gestational age because the doctor won't produce the medical records to me. I've requested him twice, and he still won't produce them. And the medical abortion didn't work. So a couple days later, she went in for a surgical abortion. Mm-hmm. And it was a pretty traumatic surgical abortion. We haven't released all the details yet, but they will be coming in the next couple of days. And she went home and she started getting sick and like flu-like symptoms. And she called the doctor, and the doctor said, "Oh, well, you have the flu. Don't worry about coming in." And she called again. And the doctor said, "No, you still have the flu. Go get checked for COVID. You must have COVID." So one day she was sitting at home and she delivered a baby after a surgical abortion, dead on the toilet essentially, but she kept the baby's remains. So her husband, she was married, got really mad and said, why did this happen? And he called the doctor. He said, I'm coming down there, and I'm coming down there to get answers.
Mhm.
And they drove down to the clinic. Before he got to the clinic, the doctor left the clinic, called the police, and walked away from the entire situation. So I've got this young woman who has a dead baby with her, going into the clinic with her husband. She's in pain. She's infected. She walks into the clinic and she says, I want my medical records. I want to talk to the doctor. They say, well, the doctor left. And she gets a little bit more mad. And she says, well, I want my medical records. We won't give you your medical records. She said, well, look at this baby. And the lady took the baby, and the discussion went on for a little bit longer. And she says, well, now I want the baby back. And she goes, no, you can't have it back. It's mine now. And so she gets really irate. Her husband's waiting outside the clinic. She's yelling and screaming. The police officers put her in handcuffs. And her husband comes out to confront the police officers to see why they're getting arrested, and they arrest him as well. So the only people who are arresting women for having abortions in this country are abortionists, not pro-lifers, but abortionists. And this lady is absolutely destroyed. I mean, she had a really tough decision to make when she had the abortion for reasons I can't go into now. But it was a tough decision for her to make that decision in the first place. And she originally said, if the medical abortion doesn't work, I don't want a surgical one. And they said, well, if the medical one doesn't work, you have to have a surgical one. So they kind of coerced her. So this is an ongoing story where we're just about to file suit. There's some medical board complaint that is about to be filed and released. And this doctor has, 6 malpractice cases and probably 3 or 4 failed inspections of clinics in Texas and New Mexico.
And you can go to my good friend Abby Johnson started a website called Check My Clinic, and checkmyclinic.org I think is what it is. And you can go on there and see any time an abortion industry has failed a health inspection, has had any of these types of things come up. And I think the sad thing is that the abortion industry isn't telling these women the truth. They're not telling them about what abortion actually is, what it actually does, the aftermath of abortion that is so horrific. Not only things like what you're talking about, these complications that can come up, but the emotional and spiritual pain that lasts for a lifetime. And so I'm encouraged that you're out there, that you're being bold in your stance for life, that you're chasing after injustice that is happening inside abortion clinics, specifically late-term abortion clinics. It's incredible. I think that this is going to be the first time that many of my listeners, many of my followers have heard anything like this. And I can only imagine the pain that it's going to bring up in so many people as they realize the truth about abortion. But I know that what you're doing is working. It's worth it. It's worth it for the lives of people like me, like my twin, like my daughter, who wouldn't be here if that abortion had successfully taken my life. So thank you so much for standing on the front lines, for doing something. And I tell people often, every single one of us has a part to play. Every single one of us has a voice. And as a man, I believe that God made you uniquely. He made you to be a leader and to be a protector of women and children. And I know you mentioned that earlier. And I've got to say that God is going to use you in bigger ways than he can use me or women across this country, because he gave you that unique platform, that unique calling as a man. And so all that to say, thank you. Thank you for what you're doing.
And you brought up a really good point. And one of those good points is the emotional effects. And I want to encourage your listeners, if you're having those emotional effects, think about calling us an abortion on trial. I mean, there are some things that we can do. I don't want to sound gruesome or ghoulish, but if a woman's attempted suicide, which we know 30% of women contemplate suicide after an abortion within the first 100 days, if she's attempted suicide and they didn't explain the risk, you might want to call us at Abortion on Trial. We'll go ahead and we'll evaluate your case and we'll represent you. And the unique thing about Abortion on Trial is this: I've got Jamie Jeffries. She's an avid pro-lifer. She's my executive director. She's my paralegal. She does a jack of all trades. She and I work together very well at providing both the masculine and feminine side of healing in an abortion situation. And you may want that justice that's there. And we don't judge. We don't judge the women who have gone through abortions. We do judge, to some extent, the abortionists. But you may have been defrauded and not told of the emotional risk that you have. Call us. Message us on Abortion on Trial. We'll sit down and talk to you. There's usually no cost, just depending on what your issue is. But for a free evaluation, we can sit down, talk to you. We can help you get attorneys. We can help you go after the abortion industry. Literally, I have not seen another attorney. There's a lot of constitutional lawyers out there. There's a ton of them that are going to try to overturn Roe versus Wade. I'm never going to do that. I'm not that smart. I'll leave that up to the ADFs, the AULs, even the St. Thomas More Society. Martin Cannon's a great lawyer. They can deal with the constitutional side. But women need help, and they're afraid to go get help. They're afraid nobody will believe them or listen to them. They will believe you. They will listen to you in the courtrooms. They will go on and help you in the courtrooms seek justice. You just have to be courageous enough to pick up or type out a quick message to Abortion on Trial and call us, because we'll be more than happy to help you. And, I may never live in one of those big office buildings like AUL in DC, but I got my office building out here in Albuquerque, New Mexico. We travel across the country. We litigate against late-term abortionists, all abortionists in general. And it would be nice to hear from some people who have the courage as women to stand up and fight abortion in a different court, in a different realm of the courtrooms. This is you versus the abortion industry. And we will show to this country that abortion is dangerous to women, unsafe, and hurts emotionally. And we will take them on day in and day out, wherever they are in this country.
Absolutely. I love that. Definitely reach out to Mike Seibel. I wish, 10 years ago, well, I guess 11 years ago, when I met my birth mother and found out that I had survived, found out what that abortion had done to my birth mother, how they had completely disregarded her in that room as they were that abortion. Nobody even spoke to her, in fact, in that room that day. I wish I had known someone like you. I wish I had known that there could be for my birth mother, my 13-year-old birth mother. So thank you. Is there anything that we haven't brought up that you want to talk about? I know that I would love for you to just say an encouraging word to the person that maybe like me and you has certain gifts and talents and has been put in a certain place in life. For instance, you as an attorney, you have been given this incredible gift of being able to represent women, represent families, and go after the abortion industry. And so you're using what you have, the tools that you have, the gifts and the talents and the resources that God has given you to do something in the pro-life movement. And so I have to think that there are people listening that are thinking, what can I do? I'm not an attorney like Mike. I'm not an abortion survivor like Claire, but I'm my own unique person. And I have been given gifts and talents and resources and connections just like everybody else. And so God can use that person listening today. And so what would be your encouragement to them, maybe your takeaway as they kind of sit on the information that you have shared today, as shocking and as heartbreaking as it is. I have to think it's firing up some people to actually step out of their comfort zone and be bold in their pursuit of things that are good and in fighting injustice like abortion.
So a couple of things. The first one is to men. And, when I first got in this movement, I didn't think that men had a right to say anything in this movement. It's not true. They have an absolute right to stand up and protect women and children and their women and children. And wherever you are, I want men to stand up and take a bold initiative and say, yes, these are people that I care about, whether they be my sister, my mother, my daughter, my granddaughter, my niece, my nephew. These are women that I want to protect in my life, and I want to get out and protect them. Also, these are my children too, and I'm going to go out and I'm going to protect my own children in this situation. So absolutely, I have a right to speak as a man on the issue of abortion, because women either A, ask me to, or B, need me to. So I am there to speak. I encourage all the other ones to speak as well. Also, look, I'm a street lawyer. I mean, I'm a medical malpractice lawyer. Who would have thought I would have been in an abortion? There's room for everybody. There's room. I need accountants to help me in my cases. I need sidewalk advocates, counselors. Any walk of life can do something to save another life. Oscar Schindler tells us, it's on his gravestone, if you save one life, you save the entire world. So go out to the sidewalk if you need to. Talk to these women before the sidewalk. Talk to women who are pregnant and say, yes, we have resources. Yes, we have options for you to keep that baby, because you never know what that one life will do. And I always tell the story of John Paul, St. John Paul, our Pope, excuse me. His mother was advised to abort in Poland in 1919. She said no. His life was spared, and he fed the world. You don't know what that one life is going to do to provide a healing, mercy, and love to others in the future. And you do, Claire. I can tell you that because you have daughters and your life and everything else. You know what that life is like. And I'm proud to know somebody who survived an abortion, who I can say, yes, look at her life. It's beautiful, isn't it? And when you see that later in life, you know you can make a difference. So it doesn't matter who you are. You have a place here in the pro-life movement.
I couldn't have said it any better. Thank you, Mike, for joining us today. How can people reach out to you? Is Abortion on Trial is the best way? Is there another
way? Or they can call my office, and I can give you that number right now. It's 8-5 Mountainside. It's 505-275-1700. Again, that number is 505-275-1700. Abortion on Trial, you'll get a lot quicker response because Jamie's amazing. She's a spitfire. She is nonstop on the internet. I call her the snarkiest woman on the internet that I know. And she has a heart of gold, and she fights for everybody. So she will immediately contact me once there's a message, whether it be 11 o'clock at night or 6 o'clock in the morning. I don't know how she had so much energy. It must be nice to be young again. But yeah, please, abortionontrial.org or go to Facebook and message. We will get back to you. If you have a case, we will find you an attorney no matter where you are in the United States. Canada would be a little tougher, but the United States, we can find you an attorney.
Mike, you do pro bono work, and I want to encourage listeners to contribute so that you can continue to do what you're doing and make a difference. How can people donate to Abortion on Trial?
Well, there's a couple of ways. We have a link on our on abortionontrial.org or on Facebook, or you can send. You can either message Abortion on Trial. We will be having, with Mark Cavalier's help here very shortly, as soon as he gets done with his big banquet, which I'm helping him on in December for Southwest Coalition for Life. We will be having an online kind of kickoff event for abortion on trial with some great speakers from all across the country, some good lawyers and active pro-lifers. So that'll help. That's the two easiest ways. And we do a lot of other pro bono work. I mean, besides doing abortion on trial, if there's an abortion-minded woman out here in New Mexico, and this is the sort of the concept behind what Jamie and I want to do, is eventually we want to expand into the fact that women facing abortion need custody battles taken care of. And we want to set up that national pro bono network to help these women who are facing custody battles, say in Austin, with somebody who is forcing them to have an abortion. We want attorneys being able to represent these women so they don't have to worry about the custody battle afterwards.
Wonderful. I think of contributing, people partnering with what you're doing as such a tangible way to do something with the resources that they've been given. And so I would encourage anyone listening to get behind what Mike is doing. I'm excited about it. I'm heartbroken over what is actually happening in our country, specifically New Mexico. And I think the biggest takeaway that I have for myself today, for listeners today, is just to get out of your comfort zone, whatever that looks like for you, and do something. And we've heard such an incredible example of that in your testimony and the work that you're doing, Mike. So thank you so much again for joining us today.
Oh, I'm happy to join you. And I echo your opinion. Be bold. Get out there. Do something. We can stop this. This is a Cinderella story. Abortion 10 years from now, in my opinion, if we all get out there and do something, will be over in the United States. Not because of Roe versus Wade, but because of what we do. Because it will be unthinkable. I love that. I don't care about making it illegal. Let's make it unthinkable. Let's make it unthinkable. I agree with you there. Well, thank you so much for joining us at Called to Be Bold today. If you are listening, contact Mike. Subscribe to Called to Be Bold on your favorite podcast outlet, and join us next week as we highlight someone else who is living their life boldly out of their comfort zone for something that matters. Have a wonderful week.
Thank you for listening to Called to Be Bold, Episode 4, featuring Mike Seibel. You can learn more about Mike and his work with Abortion on Trial at www.abortionontrial.org. We encourage you to be bold and donate to Mike and his work for Abortion on Trial. Called to Be Bold was created and is presented by Claire Culwell. Be sure to subscribe and never miss an episode. Keep up with Claire on her social media at Claire Culwell, and find our latest updates at www.claireculwell.com.